Welcome to the Gentle Rebellion, where overwhelm is optional. Hello. Welcome to this week's episode of the Overwhelm is Optional podcast. I'm really lucky and delighted and excited to have Emily Rosales. Emily is a fellow coach who I met through Mind Valley, and she is a founder of Simply Me Coaching. She helps passionate entrepreneurs and small business owners to build and monetize their brand. Welcome, Emily. It's so lovely to have you here.
Thank you, Heidi. I'm so blessed and excited to be here.
Cool. So we've just had a chat about how we can have the most fun and create the most valuable, nourishing episode for our listeners. And we've decided to join our two specialisms together and just play. So we haven't scripted this. We never script here. It's pointless. It's boring. We don't do that. So what we thought we'd do is look at, so you are a specialist in branding, and I was just talking about how branding can actually be a powerful opportunity.
Yes.
Personal transformation. So we kind of thought this could be like a gently rebellious attitude to branding.
Yes.
So
I love that. Yeah.
So if we just frame it in how I was thinking about it, and then you just weigh in whenever you want to. So like most entrepreneurs, we go through this crazy ass time. And when I say the beginning of our journey, I mean repetitively roller coaster kind of circular nonsense of branding. Like, yeah, and by that I mean colors, fonts, and all of the physical branding, but also the tagline, the niche, like all of the stuff. And it's, to me, it's a basic thing that until you've got, you can't really go forward. But maybe that's not actually, I'm now thinking that's a nonsense as well. So the thing is that everybody's like, you have to know your niche, you have to sort your branding out, almost as if it's just a tick box exercise. And once you know that, you'll then set up a business. But what actually happens is people get stuck in, is this who I am? Is this who I serve? What am I doing again? Over and over again. And that's where the imposter syndrome comes. It's messy, it's painful, it's really not much fun. And it's one of those things that we want to kind of bypass and just get to the success. And I posited to you as a branding expert that maybe it's the opposite, because we like to turn things upside down over here in the Gentle Rebellion. What if this branding spiral nonsense is actually an opportunity, and we have an advantage over people who aren't forced to do this horribly exposed, forward-facing personal brand, putting ourselves out there in the world, daring to say we have something that can help people? What if we actually have an advantage on people who don't have to do that?
Yes. I love everything you shared, Heidi. And like you said, it's that touch of gently rebellious to branding, having a whole different perspective. And sometimes through hearing other people talk about branding, they see it as a very scary thing. You know, they're not really touching that part of their business. And I think for me, it's been just helping them see it through a different perspective and helping them see it as something that's fun. It's something that you are discovering, and the evolution of the brand is okay. It's the detachment of it. And sometimes we think like this is the brand and this has to be it forever. But, you know, it's the approach and the perspective of like, hey, this is a constant discovery of who we are and the evolution of the brand in itself.
Phew is all I can say to that. Phew. If only I'd known this earlier. And if only I'd met you earlier. So what I find extraordinary about you is that I know you, having been in masterminds with you, I know you as a deeply, just a very deep person, like really full of integrity, really connected to her heart, really purpose-driven, just an incredible person on an energetic level, on a spiritual level, on a personal transformation level. You are just an incredible human being to me. And then and she's a branding person. And it's that to me is hilarious, because I've always looked at branding as more superficial until recently. So yeah. I love that you're doing branding now, because it's like, yes. people who you can help people turn
Yeah.
it into something that is of value, not just to get out the way so they can start their business, but that getting to know yourself, that answering of the question, who am I to be doing this? Which is both to me a Zen koan, which cracks open the universe to more joy and freedom and who you are and love and connection, but is also the antidote to the imposter syndrome, the thing that freezes us from showing up and daring to say, hey world, I have this stuff, want to come see, I can help you. You know, we get stuck all the time, right? Because we're like, oh, who am I again? I've forgotten again. Oh, I shouldn't be doing this, I'm hopeless. So oh, thank goodness that you are in the world of branding. I'm just really grateful, actually.
Thank you, Heidi. Thanks so much. I think that's also why I added the word authentic branding. This is my unique approach to branding and bringing that back because I know, as I dove deeper into branding, there was a misconception. People, like you said, you think about the superficiality and like so many misconceptions and myths about branding. And I wanted to really be rebellious about to really understand, okay, what is branding? And then I started to discover that it's so much more that meets the eye. People are thinking visuals, logos, color palettes, which is obviously a part of branding, but honestly, I could tell you that it's only a small percentage of it. The
Mm,
branding, the real branding of things is the feel of things. It's like, what are your values? What's your mission? What's your why? But it's taking the time to define that. Some people are like, yeah, but what, it's the embodiment of it and defining it. It's like this company, this brand stands for something. And I want to have impact. It's not just a profit-driven company, which
mm,
obviously profit is very important, but there's a deeper bottom line to it, which is
mm,
communication.
mm.
And if you think of a brand, it could also be like a stamp, like what's your mark? So yeah, I find that so fascinating and really bringing that back into business, the story, the
Yeah,
essence.
the essence. Yeah, the essence, the story. So if I had known this earlier, it would have saved me a lot of trouble because I tried to do the first time I did branding, I mean, it kind of happened by accident because it was like somebody said, just choose some colours. I think these colours would work for you. And I think she was right. And it kind of worked for a bit. And that was really cool. And then it just felt wrong suddenly. And I completely changed my branding into what I thought it should look like. It looked gentler. So it suddenly, as my branding changed into the gentle rebellion, it was like, well, my branding now looks too harsh. So I need it to be gentler. So I completely scrapped all of it and then went for what I thought looks gentle. And it looked lovely. It looked very professional and it worked. There's nothing wrong with any of this. But what I
Mhm.
have now is very, very different. And how I got to what I have now, which ironically goes back to the color palette I originally had, but isn't too harsh now. So something going on there. I don't think it's the exact shade of green or exact shade of orange. But what I did to get where I am now is pause, do a really deep dive into what I was up to, what I'd done, what I'd accomplished, really deep dive over the winter, because that's my time for doing that. And then I spent 3 months rebranding. And by that I mean the whole what you've just said, the whole who am I, what am I doing, what am I up to? And then it just gradually came together with I mean, it wasn't 3 months of choosing colours. I don't mean that. It was 3 months of the deep work, which leads to the colours. And the strangest thing happens to me when I find the right colours. So finding the green I have now took a very long time. You go through all the greens, it's like, it's not right, it's not right, it's nearly right, it's not right, it's not right. And then suddenly this green appeared, and my entire body, it was like every cell in my body went, oh, yeah, that's it.
Mm,
Very embodied. And then
right.
finding the orange as well, and the right shade of orange. And it was such a deeply, oh, it was so deep. It was such a personal thing. And once I had it, it was like being given the right outfit, the right pair of boots. You know, that's my gently rebellious boots. I can stomp through the world. I know my stuff. I'm the gentle rebel coach. It was such a big thing. And then I just went, once I had it, I knew. And the fonts as well. Once I had it, I was done. I was like, yes. And it was so yes. And I've never had a hell yes like that with branding before. But it's
Yeah.
the deep work. It started with the pausing, the reflection. How far have I come? What am I up to? What do I want next? Who the deep Zen koan of who am I? Who the hell?
Right.
What am I doing? Yeah.
Yeah, and it's deeply connected to the feel of it. I think, like you shared, like you felt it in every cell of your body.
Yeah.
It meant something to you.
Yeah. And now I see it and I'm like, yeah, that's me. That's me. I never have any worries. So, you know, like on LinkedIn, you get people DM you with things like they've been to your website and they've taken a photo and then they put the snapshot in your DM and then they tell you everything that's wrong with your branding, with your website, with your LinkedIn profile. And it's meant well, but really, please don't do it, because if you're not feeling confident, it makes you feel terrible. And if you are feeling confident, you just come across as really rude, because what you're doing is saying all of this is rubbish. So I had somebody do it just after I'd rebranded. They offered it, and I was like, yeah, I've just rebranded. And then I had somebody do it with my website, and I'd just done my whole website in the beautiful new colors, new copy, everything. And I loved it. It's never going to be perfect. That's it. I'm done. I've other work to do now. And then I got this, yeah, you're this is all wrong. And I'm like, yeah, I've just done it. Thanks for that. Cheers for that. Made my day. But the thing is, I don't feel threatened by it anymore, because it's irrelevant. It's a subjective opinion. There isn't right or wrong. There's no internet police saying your font size should be this big. You can only have these colors. Like there's not an exam. We're not a school. I mean, yeah, there's things that can be better, obviously, but come on. You know, if you'd left a thing in my DM saying, hello, I absolutely love your branding and what you do. I do this. If you ever need any help, let me know. That would have been okay. I don't think it's the best way to start a conversation with someone personally, but starting it with, your stuff's rubbish, buy mine. No, don't do that. So what I love now is I find it very easy to just go, yeah, well, never mind. You're wrong. I'm right. Good luck with your business. I used to reply to every DM saying something like, and have an unexpectedly lovely day. Now I just can't be bothered, because life's too short. But I try to be polite. But yeah. So what's really good about that experience for me personally is, what if I could have cut the whole thing? Now, I don't think you can, like you said about evolution of brands, I do think you have that. But the whole thing I believe, was more painful than it needed to be. Like if I had somebody like you who had helped me at the beginning, then I don't think it would have needed to make me feel quite so wobbly and insecure. So I don't know if you fancy just like talking through what kind of process, you know, if somebody came to you, how you would help them. I'd love to know.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be really cool if you wouldn't mind.
Yeah. And thanks for sharing some of your journey with your branding. I mean, me as well. It's been also a journey to keep refining and fine tuning, because what I learned is that branding is an ongoing journey.
Yeah.
Because yes, the logo, the website, but the message, the real message that is being transmitted with you through to your people, to who you're serving. So that is also a huge part of the branding that people do not see, but it's a big part, because it's the language that you continue to communicate. And for me, it's the language has it the foundations, the essence stays the same, but the language is refining. It's fine tuning more and more as I improve, as I learn more about people. So like you said, it's that approach of what they, they send you a message kind of sharing what is basically wrong, which I never believed in that. I think that it's important to always see how we like to be approached, like feel into when people send certain messages. And if I like it or not, then I wouldn't want to, do that to other people.
Mm.
It's more of the alignment, like, hey, are we speaking the same language? Does this make sense to you? And I've benefited so much from approaching branding through a play, through creativity, like having it fun. Like it is really a play, it is really creativity. And yes, there is solid things you choose, but there is a part of it that's detached, like setting the values, setting the mission, setting the purpose. And that could be set, and just sometimes you might change a word that might be better than the one that you had, whether it's a synonym, but it's more powerful. It gives it more meaning to the actual message. So through the refinement of the messaging, you can translate it into marketing. How are you marketing this? Like your message is about being gently rebellious, about sharing to your people that your journey in business doesn't have to be overwhelming. It could be ease and gentle
And fun, right?
yeah, and people want that because like so many people are experiencing this energy of overwhelm, of like frustration, that their business journey is just too much, it's so hard. And having that belief and the way they experience life because of the fact that they have that belief, and you're here to give them a whole different perspective. So that's what you're sharing with the world as well.
Mm. Yeah, the words are really interesting, aren't they?
Yeah.
I look back at old titles and words and taglines and the playing constantly until, yeah. But it gets easier, I find. And I think that's important to acknowledge that all those people stuck in the changing your tagline every hour, which is a horrible place to be.
Right.
I really think there's value personally in just going with what is.
Right.
Because when I say my branding's now perfect for me, I don't mean it's done forever. Like I love it at the moment, but I'm still messing, like I'm about to redo my work with me page because I think it could be better. So, and that's okay, so it's like, but the bit at the beginning is you change it so often. That's part of the problem because you're focused on what does it look like from the outside because everybody tells you it's important. And for me, I think I would just say, yeah, just pick something and just like run with it for a bit and see what happens. Because the truth is, there's no one answer. And that's the big thing I've learned in business. When people are trying to sell you their one right solution for all time that will magically make you the money you need to stop being so scared that you can't breathe, that you're not going to have enough money to get that horrible feeling. I really think that it's more important actually to just have the courage to show up messily and just share something, because that's how you find out your way of doing it. And unless you do it, like unless they say, oh, it's no good doing all these things, you're just throwing spaghetti at the wall. Well, you need to throw spaghetti at the wall. That's part of it. You get to throw spaghetti wherever you want to, and that's okay. Like just chuck the spaghetti around, see what sticks, see what feels good for you. Find out what you like. Because what I don't like is all these rules.
Right.
Like all these rules, like you shouldn't post this many posts on this platform because the algorithm this. And I'm like, who cares anymore? Because it keeps changing and like nobody knows, and what works for one person. The problem is that the people who are making lots of money are not the people who are not making the money, and so therefore everything is different, like the algorithms and the like it's just a different place to be. Things change. And in the end, it is the people who have the courage and tenacity to keep going that succeed. So if I look at all the people I've known over the last 5 years, and those of us who are still here, you know, like this is my 201st. Oh no, it won't be. I've just released my 201st episode. Yeah. And it's like, you know, well, how did that happen? Tenacity. That's it. You know, it's not having the right words. It's just having words and daring to say, yeah, this is what I've got, world.
Yeah, you nailed it, Heidi. I think that's the key. It really is the key, just to the perseverance to keep going, even through the messiness, because it's the mess turns into the message.
Exactly.
By just the perseverance of it. But sometimes, like, you know, the fear of those mistakes, the fears of being messy holds people back from actually they don't do anything at all. You know, it's better to actually take the action as opposed to not do anything at all.
Yeah, exactly. Although I think there's room to just like rebel against all the nonsense, as if there's all these rules and you don't know how to play them and you're always messing up and you're doing it wrong. Like, resist all the manipulative marketing messages about you're wrong, because nobody knows what's going to work for you, because there's this element of magic anyway, and it's changing very fast as well. So I think for me, there's that rebellion against that for what feels good to you. But at the same time, I still think we can shortcut the process by going deeper, faster. You know, by asking, by doing what you said. So you said at the beginning that although colors and fonts and everything matter, it is the deep work, it is the message, it is the element behind it's your essence and your values. So how would you, and I completely agree with that, I think that's the bit we need to focus on, is who you are, why you're doing this, what your purpose is, what your values are. How do we get to that bit quicker? You know, what are good questions or methods, or how do we do that? Because actually that's courageous work, right? I mean, that's tough. That's the real, you know, I always remember like the first time, actually I don't remember the first time, but I remember that early bit when you're like putting videos online and anything online, and it just feels like your skin's so thin, and you just like, you go to post and you're like, I hope nobody sees it, and then an hour later you're like, nobody's seen it, and then you're like, people have seen it, oh no, people have seen it, and it's like that, I don't want people to see it, I do want people to see it, oh no, and because it's just so like raw and vulnerable feeling. But actually the real raw vulnerability, I think, or the valuable bit, the real important bit, is with yourself. So what have you got, anything you can weigh in on that part of the branding?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I totally feel you on that experience of putting things out there, going back and forth with wanting to be seen, but not wanting to be seen at the same time. It's a journey, but it's a very rewarding. But in regards to the depth of really understanding and having that shortcut, I really think it's important to take the time to answer these questions, to really contemplate them, to be mindful in them and write them out, you know, the important questions that are connected to branding, with like, what are your values? Who is your audience? Who are you serving? What is your mission statement? And those like deep questions, but really going back and reflecting on your experiences to be able to define this. And once you are defining it, what's your story? What's your what? Like, how like going back and be like, well, what led me to this? You know, and sometimes we forget to think about this because we're so forward thinking that we have to keep going out, you know, having that energy. It's like, I don't really have time for this. And it's like, but if we do go, you know, in and go out at the same, having a beautiful balance between going in and out, is you create the flow. So being able to answer this and applying it when you're communicating it, applying it to the people that you're having conversations with, and people can feel it at an energetic level.
Yes, I'm really glad you mentioned about that, because one of the things I really struggled with at the beginning was people would say you need to know your values and then give you a list of values. And that doesn't work. Like for people like me who don't want to let anyone down and like helping people, we're going to tick service. Well, it wasn't until I removed service. I mean, service is one of my values, but it's not one of my primary values for a really good reason, because I was getting stuck in that what is it a client called it the other day, worthy martyrdom. Like, I don't need money as long as I can help people, or it doesn't matter about me as long as I can help people. Like that was my default setting, and it's not helpful at all to anyone. It's just not good. And it wasn't until I did the looking at my stories that I found my values. So to me, values are uncovered by looking at your stories, your patterns, and you're often in your stuck points. Like, what are the points in your life that some either like a crisis or a deep emotional memory, or what have you struggled with? So what I discovered by doing the deep work was freedom is my number one value. Now it's obvious. Like, it's just so obvious that freedom is my number one. That's what gently rebelliousness is about, the freedom to be yourself. But when I did the original stuff at the beginning of my business, it was like, well, pick 5 values off this list. So when you just said that, it's really important to go to look behind you, to look at your stories. Yeah, I completely agree. There's so much value in looking back and going, what was I up to? Why on earth did that shameful period in my life happen? When was I most happy? All like the highs and lows will show you, I believe, your values, because well, first of all, you remember those more because memory is primarily driven by emotion. So therefore, the highs and lows are the ones that are going to stick with you, particularly the lows.
Yeah.
But if you just skirt across those, you don't have to spend ages. I mean, I'm not talking about, years of therapy to find out your values. I'm talking about look behind you, look at the peaks and troughs, ask yourself, what was I up to? So in a struggle, what was I really struggling for? Or what was I avoiding doing because I didn't want to lose something? So I can just beautifully see it was all about freedom for me. And once I got that and stopped trying to make service into my top value, I was able to be of service, true service.
Ooh, I love that. Yeah, and I love that component of values, because I think what the connection we're looking for with other people, because our business is relationship. And people want to hear about us. People want to know who's the face behind the brand. They want to hear the story. They want to know more. So that is such an important component, because that directly correlates to the people we're serving as well. The correlates to even the money. But putting the relationship first in order to make that personal connection. And it's through the story of sharing, like, hey, we each have our peaks and troughs, and seeing it through the lens of a story. Like, this is because people connect most through story. That's actually why we love movies so much, why we resonate so much with certain characters. And the reason why is because our lives are also a story in a sense. It's a narrative that we are speaking out to the world. And it makes it so much more fun when we see it through that lens. That's been my experience, because, there are tough moments where we experience shame or being, in dark spaces. But then when we see it, where it's like any good movie has to have those dark. People don't want to watch it if it doesn't have, something exciting, something that, because we relate so much to it, and now through that, it gives me the courage to share more about that, to be like, hey, yes, I struggled very deeply with my self-esteem. It was so hard to love myself, and it was so hard for me to be authentic. I was living my life for others. I was putting their needs above mine, and then I ended up, being really, I could be resentful. I could be very just like, dang, like and being able, after a very painful experience, was when I had to make, in order for like my health to really get back on board, I had to put my health first, because I had no other option. So that is what led me to my passion of helping people see their lives through the story, because that's how I've been able to connect and create more relationships, create more trust. And ultimately, people work with people they trust. So how do we cultivate that trust? It's through just sharing our personal story as well.
Mm. Yeah, so important. Although I also want to say that with one caveat.
Yeah.
Never share your story when you're in the middle of the pain. Like,
Oh,
what is it they say? Don't share from the wound, share from the scar, or something like that. Like, because I've listened when these is Clubhouse still going, that audio network. I don't know if it I used to be in that, and there was somebody, I was in some story brand session, and somebody was showing their story, and it was so painful to listen. It was like, oh my goodness. And she wouldn't stop, and she was just basically offloading, and it was so sad because you could tell she was in so much pain because she was in the middle of it. And the people were trying to bring the session to a close, and they did it beautifully. And they said, and they just managed to say one line very gently, like something like, don't share your story yet. You're not ready to share. Wait till you've healed and moved on from this story and life's become more stable. And that that was a good lesson for me to learn.
right.
Because, like you, I went through a very painful, it sounds similar in that, putting other people first and damaging my health, and then having to put myself first and learning that. And if you share from if you share when you can't yet see the light, then you're offloading, right? And it's not helpful. It's just, I mean, people do this. This isn't a judgment, as in, if people want to go online and cry, that's their business. But come on, like, it's not a, how helpful is that for the world? I don't know. Personally, I think it's more helpful when we share from a place of health and to having taken personal responsibility for what happened to us, and we've healed, because then the story has a completion to it. We've come out the other side. It's the end of the movie, not the middle of the movie. So I would just add that,
Oh,
because
yeah.
I felt like it.
No, that's an amazing point to share, because it is important, to also share the happy ending part of there's like, you're taking them through the whole journey, and then it's like there is a really beautiful ending to it, to the movie.
Yeah, stick
And
with me because it gets better. It's that, isn't it?
yeah, and
Yeah.
that's kind of what makes it, so inviting to go see those movies, because of it leaves you with something happy, something inspiring, something to take with you. Even for me, that experience was honestly the biggest blessing of my life at this point, being able to start something of my own, to really go after what I love, to discover and go about it in my way.
Mm.
It's been the highest level of freedom I've experienced, and I wouldn't want it any other way. It's like, hey, this is the biggest blessing of my life.
See, that's interesting, isn't it? I love that, because when I was struggling at the beginning with regaining my health without the finances to, when it was tricky, everything was hard. Like, energy was low, confidence was low, money was low, blah, 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 the first few months. I remember thinking, because I'd had a plan, I had this elegant exit from my career into my own business, and then my health, like everything imploded. And I remember thinking, if only. if only I'd been able to do it in the planned route, everything would be so much easier, everything would be so much better. But the truth is that there's nothing quite like imploding your life and they're burning your bridges to propel you to keep going, because it's like you just can't go back, because you're not that person anymore. You've changed into a different person, or you've become more fully yourself, and you're just not willing. You will do anything to avoid going back into the place that damaged your health, that was this, because it's not you. And so, although most of the people I knew at the beginning had done things sensibly. They had financial security, they had this excellent plan, but many of them actually are probably still working the day job while doing something on the side. And it's sensible in so many ways, and it looked so invitingly nice and calmer and more secure. But actually, there's no way I'd have this many podcast episodes out, or this, a book, or like all of the things, because that takes an enormous amount of courage and guts and tenacity to just keep going. And I think, I don't know, I can't imagine, I just wouldn't be the same. It would be well, maybe I would have done, but it would have been a different podcast, a different book. Who knows? It's a different timeline. I don't know, because it's not me.
Yeah.
I've never done anything in a particularly sensible way, and that's just who I am. So
It's just who you are, because those experiences have shaped you, have completely transformed you, and that's what creates the story.
Yeah. Oh, that's funny. Oh my goodness, this has been so much fun. I've just loved doing this with you. Is there anything else you want to add to the conversation about branding, or anything?
I think also the word that comes to mind right now is needs. Like needs of people, like being able to really understand the need of your ideal client, the pain point, the challenge, or what these people are, the challenge with what we're solving. And it's like, this is the bridge to get you to really understand, really have a grasp on that need of your client. So I create, like, I want to be able to paint the whole picture of being able to spend time on your brand, understanding who you are, understanding even your own needs, understanding what we need in the moment, and being very honest with it, very transparent with it, and having language to that need. And it directly correlates to the people we're helping, because we are experts in this pain point, in this challenge, because we've gone through it, we've experienced it, we know how to get out of it. So, that the branding part gives you so much more clarity on the actual pain point of your own clients. And that's what positions you as the expert, positions you as the guide to take your people through through the journey. And that's why I'm so passionate, because it helps me really have the empathy and have all of the elements of deep listening, of really creating that safe space for the people to be completely themselves. Like, hey, there's no agenda, there's no judgments here. Like, here is the space for us to keep creating, to keep transforming. And I'm here for you to just facilitate. I'm just here to make the communication process easier for you and more at ease. So that's my goal, is like, what do I need to keep doing in order for me to really provide this space, this environment, this ambiance? And it just kind of bridges why branding is so important, because it helps us serve people and impact people on a deeper level. And even my brand, it stands for Simply Me. Like, there's so much meaning behind Simply Me. It's my most authentic self. And it puts me in the position to keep shedding my layers, even in the moments where I'm having certain conversations with people that I feel like I have to put a front up, or things like that, where it's continuous invitation to just keep dropping those guards, to keep sharing what's on my heart and not hold back. So that brand is always in the back. It's in the subconscious, even in the middle of those moments, in the middle of those conversations. It's like, Emily, just drop, just you serve the best when you just let go, when you are you. And that is what I'm so passionate about. And I wanted to just share this with people because we have this opportunity. It's available to everyone.
Wow. And knowing you, I just think what a gift to the world to have somebody who can hold space for you while you do the deep work necessary if you want to create a truly authentic and connective brand. I mean, what a gift to the world. I'm so grateful for you and the work that you're doing. So grateful. Where can people find out more about you?
Well, thank you, Heidi. The feeling is so mutual, and I am really grateful to know you and to know who you are, know your essence. And it's honestly a big blessing to have this dialogue, have this conversation, and just share what's on our hearts, some of our pieces of our journey. So yeah, my gratitude to you. And people can find me on social media, LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook. Usually my main platform right now is Instagram. A lot of my audience is there. So I've been really working on building that. It's that account is fairly new, but it's really, that one is just coming directly from my heart. Like everything that is just like, this is me. So yeah, Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook.
So just Emily Rosales?
So it's actually underscore Emily and then another Y Rosales. That's for Instagram.
Cool.
And then LinkedIn, it's Emily Rosales.
Yeah. And your website?
www.simplyme/coaching.com.
Brilliant. We'll put that in the show notes. Thank you so much. It's just been lovely.
Thank you, Heidi. I appreciate you.
For more resources to help you gently rebel, please visit my website www.heidimark.co.uk.